Hello, everybody. How are you tonight? I see we have people coming in already. I'm so glad you're here. Hello, Rosie. Sharon is here, and she's also waiting in the background. Hi, Kim. How are you? Hello, Mary. Who else was here? Lori, good to see you. Hi, Susan. Yay, you made a live. Yay. Hi, Deneen. Are you still at the lake or are you home now? We'll give it a few minutes for everybody coming in. Hi, Joyce. How are you tonight? I do have a special guest tonight. I'll be bringing her up in just a minute. I have several videos I want to share with you. And so, but I'm excited. Hello, Lorna. I am so excited to be able to talk to Sharon tonight and to let her tell her story. I'll be asking her some questions and we'll just kind of go through it a little at a time and see how it goes. If anybody in the chat, hello, Denise, good to see you. Laura, see people are starting to come in. They're getting their notifications. So was anybody able to see Sharon's interview that she did on Tear Talk with Anthony? Did anybody see that? Can you let me know in the chat if you did get to see it? I'm thinking Diamond Girl saw it. I'm not sure who else. Good to see you, Laura. Diamond Girl is here. Joan. Hi, Sue. Anybody see it? I was thinking you did. Okay. Joyce saw a little bit of it. Sue saw some of it. Hi, Sylvia. I'm thinking it's going to be a new to quite a few of you. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and bring Sharon up. Her internet and my internet may be a little bit wonky. If it is, just be patient with us because we're doing the best we can here. You know what I mean? we don't have the best stuff. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring Sharon. Hello.
Hi.
This is Sharon.
Which way do I turn?
Creates. Oh, I think you're pretty good right there. Well, plus I can do it this way too. And that gives a different angle also. There's Denny. Hello, Denny. Yes, put DNA on that like button. I love that. I love that. Putting DNA on the like button. Isn't that cute? So do you all know this is Sharon of Sharon Creates? And she has a special story that a lot of people don't know unless they watched Anthony. That's Tear Talk with Anthony Ganji. He does the tier, TIER means the tiers in the prison system. He is a warden and an administrator and an all around great guy. He's also got a psychology degree, and he interviewed Sharon and had a big panel of people. And I asked her if she would like to come on to my show and tell her story where we could get into it a little bit deeper, you know? You want to say anything? I'll be quiet for a second.
Hi, everybody. I'm not crazy. Seriously.
No, we don't. At least I do not think you're crazy. And I don't think anybody else. Crazy is a whole nother thing.
No, I know.
As a matter of fact, Anthony is on at the same time I am. So some people may be over there, and that's okay. Hello, Passamaquoddy. How are you? I'm never sure if I'm saying that right. Okay, I'm gonna start with some simple stuff. Can you tell us a little bit about where you grew up?
I was born in New Jersey. Yep, I was born in New Jersey. I moved to upstate New York when I was about 3. And then just before I turned 8, we moved to Rhode Island. And most of the time I've lived in Rhode Island. I lived up in upstate Maine for a couple of then I came back to Rhode Island.
Okay. And so you're in Rhode Island now.
Yes.
Okay. And so we're gonna start with the story that you're telling us today is how you actually became a pen pal and met a prison inmate, and that you wound up marrying him, and you had 2 children with him.
Yes.
Okay. So it's one of the things that I know a lot of people would want to know in relation to this is why someone would do that. And I wanted to start with, and I know we're just getting right on in it right there, but I wanted to say with what was your, can you say that briefly what your family life was like growing up? I mean, you had a normal family, a not normal family.
My father was a Baptist minister, and he was very, very strict and very um, kind of overbearing. My parents got divorced just before I turned 13, and then my mother got remarried to another guy who just wasn't a good guy either.
Okay.
And she passed away when I was 20, and then I moved out on my own.
Okay, because I was going to ask you that. I failed to ask you that when we spoke before, was how old you were when your mom passed away. So you were 20. Were you
Yes.
out of were you already out of the house by that time, or
I was finishing college. I did the last year of college living on my own and working full time.
so you graduated from college?
Yes.
What was your degree in?
Fine art.
In fine art. Well, and now you're doing it with fiber arts.
Yep.
But that's wonderful. That's good to know that you did that. Um, I feel like that's a big accomplishment for anybody in any time, now or even back then. So, so you said your father was abusive, and your stepfather was abusive. Okay.
Yes.
So it'd be safe to say that you felt your family was dysfunctional.
Very.
Do you feel like your family was dysfunctional from the get-go, or was it something that happened when you started to get old enough to realize it was, or
I probably didn't realize it at first until probably until I was about 8 or 10, somewhere in that
okay.
age range when the world stops being, you stop being the center of the world and other things start.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's true. I think when you're little, everybody just, you're always the cute little guy that everybody always, gives attention to and stuff.
Actually, there were a few times before that where I knew. I
Okay.
just didn't want to admit it.
Okay. That's all right. It's all part of the process. I know that you are working through a lot of this stuff too, even now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It takes a long, long time.
Yes, it does. So you mentioned to me that you felt like you grew up with what you might say is some low self-esteem.
Very,
Okay.
very.
And I'm laying this out for everyone to understand that there are certain things
Triggers.
that kind of run in common with people who do some this type of thing, you know. But yeah, I think a lot of us can understand the low self-esteem. Absolutely. And I think that that comes in a lot of different degrees. People are saying hello, and I think they're just listening in and glad you're here. Okay. Um, and you were 20. That was one of my questions.
Yeah, when my mom
So,
passed, I was 20. And I moved out on my own within a few months.
okay. So you were, well, your mom died right about the time you were graduating from college.
About a year before
Oh, okay. Well,
she died,
it's still a,
she, yeah,
that's still tough though within a year of that. That's still pretty tough because that's a pretty big time frame in your life. Moving out, graduating college, and then your mom passes away. So that's, yeah, that's
she passed away before I moved out. And then I had like a year and a half of college left that I did living on my own.
and did you have, now yeah, you had lots of stepbrothers and sisters and stuff too. There was like a mixed family because you had a stepfather, so then you had stepbrothers and sisters.
Yeah, I had two stepsisters that lived with us. The other two were older.
Yeah, so then you lived with them before you were out on your own. So it was a mixed family as far as that goes.
Yes.
Um, now, before this happened, before you met this person that you married, how many relationships would you have said you had?
One serious relationship.
Okay.
The others,
And
maybe a date here and there, but nothing really.
okay. Hi, Maribel. So
Hi,
you
neighbor.
felt you're saying that you really didn't have a whole lot of experience dating then.
Right.
Okay. So when I watched you on Anthony, you mentioned that your stepmother had seen an ad in a magazine.
My stepsister's mother. Yeah, my
Okay.
stepsister's mother.
And it
So
was
she wasn't really related to me.
right,
Yeah, it was.
right. But she had seen
we
something in a
we got along
magazine.
because, yep. And she started writing and had gotten to know this pen pal, but her car wouldn't make it from Rhode Island to New York. So she asked me to drive her. And in doing that, she wanted me to visit with, well, her pen pal asked if I would visit with a friend who wasn't getting visits.
Ah, okay. So that wasn't real clear to me either. So you knew, somehow you knew that she was writing to somebody? Was she writing to somebody before you guys went?
Yes,
Okay.
she had been
How long?
writing for several months.
Okay, so she'd been writing to somebody for several months, and then and you knew this somehow because or
She
was
told me.
the first time you knew about it when she asked you to go with her, or
Yes,
interesting. Okay. So this would be her first visit and she didn't want to go by herself.
right. And her car wouldn't make it that far.
And how old were you when this happened?
About 27, 28.
Okay. And you'd been on your own for a while then.
Yeah.
Okay. And then so you guys go and you meet one guy and you said that this guy was really asking for a lot. That, can you talk about that?
He wanted me to send money orders to people on the outside. Not huge amounts, but still more than I felt comfortable with.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't know him that well. And for him to ask stuff that quickly, it just seemed way off.
So so what were you expecting when you said yes? Had she told you, like, of course you had the drive there and all that kind of stuff, right? So I mean, had had she told you a little bit about her experience so far before meeting the guy, what it had been like and that kind of thing? Did you have some I just wonder what you thought was going to happen when you got there. Did you have any,
I
you know,
just thought I was going to sit and talk with somebody that hadn't gotten visitors for a while. And it kind of felt like going to visit somebody in a nursing home, just, somebody who's lonely and doesn't get to talk to people. And what's it going to hurt? I'm going to sit in a room. There's guards there. It's safe.
okay. Okay. So that's you
It was
just
a
felt like it was
little
just
scarier than I thought it would be.
it was scary when you got there?
Yeah, just having to go through the check-in process and showing your ID and turning out your pockets and going through metal detectors. It was a bit,
Yeah.
but I wasn't
Especially for
alone.
right, you weren't alone. And so this was her first time going through this as well then. Yeah.
Yes.
So you kind of felt like, well, I'm doing this with my friend. It will be all right. That kind of thing.
Yep.
Okay. Now, now this was your stepsister's mother that you went with though. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I have to keep reminding
Yes.
myself. How much older than you was she?
Yeah.
I mean, how much older? She must have been older than you.
She's, yeah, old enough to be like a parent. She could have been my mother. She had kids that were older than me, and her son, who was older, was a year older than me. And then she had an older daughter, and then two that were younger. Not that much younger,
Okay.
but
Just something I had not thought about before when we talked about how much older. So, do you feel like maybe she
yeah,
being
she
older
was
than you, that you felt
kind of a mother figure.
yeah, so you maybe feel like she had a little bit of authority and that things were gonna be okay because of that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, you did mention to me that you said because you came from a dysfunctional family, that
Yes.
when you considered the things that you were when you were talking to the inmate and all these things that, you know, you were no stranger to dysfunction, and so that part of it did not surprise you or anything like that.
Right.
Yeah. So that's something to keep in mind
And
also.
he, he seemed to understand some of what I had gone through because he went through some similar things. He just got into trouble instead of
Right.
what I did, which I don't know.
Well, some people get in trouble and get caught, some people don't. But I'm not saying you did anything that would warrant that. It's just, we're kids being kids.
I was
Some
pretty
people
good.
yeah. We all have stuff in our past. That's not it at all. Okay, now tell us, because you said the first guy that you spoke to is not the man you married. So how did that go from that guy to the one that you that you began to have a relationship with?
She wanted to go down and visit again, and I had somebody else wrote to me, and I wrote back to him, and I was going to go visit him, and he got transferred out a couple of days before we went down for the visit. So last minute, I got asked to visit with the guy I ended up marrying.
Okay.
I was like, whatever, it's a visit.
Now, was this at the same
He's
time
not
that you
ugly.
went?
He was pretty good looking.
Right. You said he was good looking and a very, would you say he was a smooth talker? Okay. Now, this was again
Very,
when you went
very.
with your stepmother, your stepsister's mother, on another
Yes.
one of those visits? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Same place.
I want to show something. I want to show a video if I can. I hope my internet acts right. Let's see here. For those that are wondering, this is kind of interesting. So this is the Pima County. Where is Pima County? Shoot, I forget where that's at. Oh, Arizona. This isn't a. This website is for Pima, and it was interesting to me that you get one free visit every so often, and after that you have to pay for them. So you get one free 30-minute one per week, and then additional 30 minutes, it's $9 per inmate per day. And so you have to schedule those and pay for them. And we're going to get to all of that here pretty
Okay.
soon, you guys. Yeah, they want to know the details. Hi, Pat. We'll get to it here in just a minute, but let me show you this quick because this was interesting. I'm not going to show the whole thing because it's 8 minutes, but
welcome to this introduction to visitations at the Pima County Jail and an overview of the services available.
That make the lighting any better? Not really.
The main doors lead you to the waiting area and the front desk where the staff can answer your questions. This video will show you the way to register for
Wow, that's fancy.
visits, discuss some of the rules during visitations, and then highlight some of the additional services available, including posting bonds, adding money to an inmate's cash account, and providing other services. Before visitations can even be scheduled, each visitor must register in the jail system. This can be done at one of the kiosks in the jail lobby, or it can be done over the internet. Either way, you will need to enter basic information about each expected visitor and provide one of these approved photo IDs for each adult. The easiest ID will be an official state of Arizona driver's license or ID card, because if you swipe one of those in this kiosk, it will automatically enter much of the information you need into the computer. Children under 18 will still need to be registered, but you will only need to provide their names and birth dates. 2 last steps to complete registration. First, at the end of your registration session, each person will get assigned a registration ID number. Write this down and keep it safe. It identifies.
let's skip a little bit.
When you arrive for your visit, check in at the front desk. They will make sure you're all set. When the visit starts, the staff will announce it, and you will bring your group to the left side of the front desk to get to your assigned booth. Then there are some additional details that will make your visits better. Be on time. When your 30-minute visit is scheduled.
Now, does that look anything like what it was like when you went in? Okay.
Nope. This was also back in 1998. And COVID wasn't a thing.
Right.
So they were in-person visits in a cafeteria type setting. Some were small tables with chairs, some were side-by-side chairs. They had vending machines with food and beverages and snacks and microwaves, but the inmates were not allowed at the vending machines or the microwaves. And they had to use separate bathrooms.
Okay. And there were guards there?
Yes. Most of the time they sat up front. Occasionally they'd walk around and say hi to people and, make sure nothing untoward was happening. People still got away with things that were untoward, but we won't go into that.
They always do. They always find a way. I mean, that's just part of it. But what I thought was very interesting about this one is that they made it look so pretty.
Yeah, it wasn't that nice and shiny in New York.
I mean, shiny, brand new, everything's great. You're just coming to see a friend. It just all looks just so pretty. It just floored me. I'm like, wow. Like you said, not only that, it's fancy.
Whether you're here or
But
Yeah.
I mean, it just, like I said, it made it all look so darn pretty. Okay, so I did have some people were asking some questions. They want to know, first of all, were you scared? You did say you were, it was a little scary because of the checking in and all of that stuff.
And there were you weren't allowed to wear overly revealing clothes. You couldn't wear underwire bras because that would set off the metal detector. You had to take your shoes off. Personal items like a cell phone, all that. Well, you could bring in money for the vending machines, but that was it.
So people are wanting to know, of course, we can start there. What was he in for?
He was in for robbery and witness intimidation. Of
Now,
course, he minimized it all.
Robbery. Let's start with
He
the
said,
robbery. Was this armed robbery?
no, his roommate's apartment.
So
He stole
his
things from
roommate
his
turned him
roommate.
in for stealing from him. Okay.
Yep.
Now
Supposedly his roommate kicked him out and he broke in and took stuff. And he said he didn't do it. And he said the witness intimidation was just because he got mad because he was being accused.
Okay. The witness intimidation was did he intimidate
Because my
the
ex
roommate?
got mad at his roommate.
Okay. So
I found out much later that it was much more.
do you want to talk about that, or?
I found out much later that he had started using drugs and he took stuff from his roommate and he pawned it at the store down the road. And that's why his roommate kicked him out and wasn't going to deal with it anymore.
So since you said you found out later, we need to let everybody know that there are things that you did not know until later about his history. Now,
Yes.
One of the questions I had was, how much did you know going in? So did you did you look him up or anything like that to find out what he did? Or okay, so you told me that some of the information that you were able to find was very vague.
Very, very vague.
So
It
what
tells
do
his
you mean
charges.
by that?
The charges for when he was in were robbery and intimidating a witness. Very vague. So he was honest about why he was in, what his charges were. His previous, I don't remember right now what his previous charge was, because he had been in once before for a short time. And I don't remember what that was. It might have been fighting. It might have been, I don't,
Like something like after he
forgery.
got in there?
No, he had been in once before he was in this time when I met him.
Okay, so
But
he
it
had
was
previous
like,
charges.
right.
And did you know he had previous charges? Did he tell you that?
Yes. I think he explained it that he got into trouble with his brother. I don't remember. He must have
Okay.
minimized it so much that it really didn't mean
It didn't
anything.
stick with you. Yeah. It all sounded like it was nothing, that it was just, kids being kids or just.
Yeah. Brothers messing around and getting in trouble for it.
Now, how old was he when you met him? Was he close to your age?
He's 9 years older.
Okay. So this is,
Not terribly. A
well,
bit
no,
older,
but
but not terribly.
that'd be like 35, 36 when you met him, though?
Yeah.
Okay.
About 36 or 37.
But you realize that that is interesting, because having had the issues that you had with your own fathers who were older than you,
Somebody for older. Right.
held some sort of an authority over you, was dysfunctional. This is something that was normal to you.
Right.
Yeah, there is a connection there. Um, okay, let me see. Was there any other questions before I ask you some of mine? And hello, knitting artisan. Glad you're here. They're being so quiet, really. They're like probably going, "Wow, I can't believe this." But y'all, I'm gonna
I
try
went
to
through
keep.
10 I went through 10 years of him being in there and followed him through many facilities. I got the correctional facility tour of New York State. When I first met him, he was near New York City. He went as far as the Ohio border. And then for the last few years, it was about 4 hours away from where I was, which
Okay.
was 4 hours one way, which was a much better drive than 12 hours one way.
So when you said New York State, were you in New York around there when he was transferred, or were you still in?
I was living in Rhode Island.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So I
Now,
would
but you
drive
said,
from Rhode Island.
but
I
you
lived
weren't
in New
married
York
yet.
State when I was a child.
Okay.
Yes, we got married in New York State. They did the license and the ceremony in New York.
Okay. So that's the next thing. And that is, did you know each other before he convinced you to marry him? And I'm going to say it that way because I know
Yeah,
proposed is one way of saying it, but more than likely he convinced you to marry him.
about 6 months.
Okay. And then you were married
And
6
then
months later?
it took about 6 months after he asked me to go through the paperwork and the procedures to set everything up.
Yeah, because there's a lot of stuff that they do before that happens. And I think
Yeah, because
that,
he
did you
asked.
say they have to like give you a time? They have to like put you in line with that?
Yeah, they schedule it whenever the justice of the peace was available to come there and perform. He asked in like mid-April, and it was the beginning of December when things went.
Right. So, um, you did not meet his family before you married him, did you?
Correct. I did not.
When did you meet his
He
family?
told me that his mother, when our son was about 3 or 4 years old,
This
I
is before
finally
he
was
got
able
out.
to meet his family. Yes.
Okay. All right, we'll get to that. Hang on. People like things to go in this like this like order, and it's for me. I'm trying to remember everything I wanted to ask you. Don't mean to
It's
stop
okay.
you.
It's okay.
Um, but I want to stay on, for the most part, why, the why, because I think that's what a lot of people want to know. So,
I was lonely.
okay.
I was getting old and I wanted kids.
Uh-huh.
And I was always, almost always a heavy person. And I did not feel like anybody found me that attractive.
Right.
And he was pretty good looking and muscular, and he was interested. And we seemed to have a lot of common things.
Now,
Although some of the things that I thought we had in common, we didn't,
yeah, you felt like
because
he
he lied
tried to relate to you, right? He was very relatable. We talked
very much.
about that. He was very relatable and made you think that you had a lot of things in common. This is the smooth talker part I was talking about.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
can you talk about what he said? You said that he told you his mother died, which that was not true, but he
Correct.
told you that because you told him about your mother passing away, that you didn't have your mother. And then he told you that he
Yeah.
had another family.
Yes, he told me he had two children, two boys, that their mother wouldn't let him see them or contact them, and that he had an older daughter as well. Now, I was under the impression that all three kids had the same mother, which he later told me, no, that's not the case, and I don't know if any of them exist. Because the one ex that he had a boy and a girl from a previous relationship. They weren't
Right.
his.
And he was trying to tell you that she wasn't letting him see those kids and all of this stuff, right?
Yeah,
Which
supposedly
they weren't
two
even his
boys.
anyway.
Yeah, and she had a boy and a girl that were not his, and he
So,
wasn't with her for a whole long time.
yeah, so pretty much most of the things he was telling you weren't even true.
Right.
Can you tell me anything that he told you? Well, he did have an ex. The ex he talked about, he did have that ex.
Yep.
Okay. Other than that, was there anything you can think of that was true that he told you?
That his father still talked to him sometimes. His father would take his calls. Um, that he grew up in New York.
Okay.
um,
And I ask you this because you said something to me about there was like a thread in there, that it was always like a little thread in there. And this is very common with, shall we say, certain personalities, you know, that there's always a little thread of something that's true and they just play off of it.
Yeah.
And
He told me that he never used drugs, that he didn't drink excessively.
which
What
is
he
not
told me
true at
about his
all.
brother was true. He
That
told me
his
he had
brother
an older brother who was also in jail and was in there for sexual abuse, which he was.
okay. Maybe because he felt like that's something you could look up.
Yep.
You know, that's information you could find out on your own that would, and maybe just would bring more.
Supposedly he wasn't allowed to go to his father's funeral because his brother was going to be there, and they weren't allowed, because they were both incarcerated, they weren't allowed to both be there because there was bad blood between them, because he was a sex offender and Michael had threatened him because he was worried about him touching his daughter, which may or may not exist.
Right. See, all of these things were making you feel better about him.
Yeah, because he had that moral compass, even though he made mistakes. And
Right.
he understood having to deal with a family member who had sex abuse problems, because
Yes.
so did I.
Right. Which is not true at all. He just went with it. Excuse me. Okay, so one of the things I wondered about, like, you knew about some of these crimes that he had. What did you think of those crimes? I mean, okay, you thought, like you said, that he just made a mistake?
For the crime that he was in when I met him, he said he didn't do it, that it wasn't him, that he had nothing to do with it, and he was innocent, and that the one before that was a mistake.
Okay. So, and again, it didn't bother you. These crimes didn't bother you. It didn't prevent you from continuing to talk to him and obviously to marry him. And why do you think that is?
No self-esteem, and he was paying attention to me,
Okay.
honestly.
So because he made you feel like he understood you. He made you feel like yeah. And he was
Like
good
he
looking
cared,
and
like he was a good person.
mhm, and he was paying attention to you. So all of those things just drew you completely in.
Yeah.
Okay. Um,
And then after we got married, I got pregnant. New York has conjugal visits.
right. Okay. Um, now how soon how soon after you got married were you able to have a conjugal visit?
It took probably about a year,
Okay.
10 months to a year, because
Okay.
he has to
And
show a pattern of good behavior. He had to take certain programs of making sure that he knew how to behave, making sure that he knew how to deal with stressful situations.
and this is something that, at least in New York, because that's where it was, at New York, right? So at least in New York, um, what was it? You had to be married to have a conjugal visit, correct?
Yes, either married or direct relation, like mother father.
Okay. And then
And those
one of the
weren't
things,
necessarily conjugal visits, those were family visits.
right, right,
Yeah.
right. but being close to people, being able to be close to people is what you meant by that.
Yeah.
And on the conjugal visits, you told me that, can you explain where those were, what that environment was?
It was a fenced in area. Most of them had either 2 to 3 duplex trailers. They were like a double wide trailer or a duplex, not cabin, but like a cottage. Just, it was small, basic, wood floors, bathroom, 2 bedrooms, living room, kitchen. When you
Now,
went in, they gave you the bedding.
okay.
We had to bring our own food, and they would sort through it, make sure things were sealed properly, make sure that there was nothing hidden in anything, and everything was approved and appropriate.
And this area was fenced in,
Yes,
and you said there was a guard that stood just outside the fence.
there was a building just outside the fence. It was the only way out is to go through that building, and they would still do count. They would call the trailer and tell them it's time for count, and he had to go stand out on the porch. The guard would come out, make sure that he could lay eyes on all of them and that everything was good.
But
And
I
if they had
asked
any
you
concerns,
because,
they'd ask us to stand out.
right, right. So you said, and because I was trying to understand how you would be safe, and I know you said at the time that you had medications you were taking, so that you had to, they probably had eyes on you more. But I mean, they didn't ask you to come stand on the porch and make sure you were okay.
No. I
But
think if
they,
they had any concerns, they would. But most of the time, people were in and out. There were picnic tables outside. There was a little play area for the kids, a basketball hoop.
and you felt like because you were able to move in and out of these little cottage trailers, that they probably, if they didn't have eyes on you for a little while, they might be concerned. Okay. Now, you mentioned children, and you mentioned having more than one bedroom. So you got pregnant within a year, and then um
Second visit.
by the second visit, okay. And so then a year later, you when you by the time you came back, now did you continue to visit while you were pregnant, and how often were your visits?
When he was close, I would visit about every other week.
Okay.
Then he got in trouble and he got moved out to the Ohio border while I was pregnant. And that I didn't go visit until I had our son.
Okay, so there was a time frame there when you, at like towards the end of your pregnancy, you weren't able to go. That makes
Right.
sense. People can't travel, they can't do things, that just happens. um but you did take him with you after he was born.
Every visit.
So how soon after he was born did you take him?
He was only a few weeks old.
Okay.
He was
And
very little.
Lori was wanting to know, now you told me that some of your visits were day visits where you would be there for like a school day type hours, like from this time in
Most
the
of the
morning.
visits were.
And then the conjugal visits, how long were you actually there together in the cottage?
Um, 2 days and 3 nights. You go and check in around noontime. And by the time you went through everything and got in, it was about 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And so you'd have the rest of that day and that night, a full day, and then the third morning you'd have to check out.
Right. Okay.
It was about
And
every
how,
6 months.
thank you. That was my next question, was how often were you allowed to have a conjugal? Now, were there times in between these conjugal visits that you still brought your son?
Every visit.
And were you still going every other week?
When he was close enough, yes.
Okay.
Otherwise, it was once a month when he was further. It took him a little bit to move back to a decent
Mm-hmm.
time.
Did you know whether at the time that you married him, he had a juvenile record, is what we're,
Yeah, I didn't know then.
but you didn't know that until after. And you said that, now moving forward a little bit here, but you said that you found out from his niece about what was going on, and that was okay. We're going to move forward to when he gets out. So how long after you met him? You said you stuck with him for 10 years. Can you tell me how long he was originally in for when you met him?
He had 13 years, I believe.
So he had gotten 13, because that confused me on something I had written down. That he'd received 20 years with 15
That's
years.
this time.
That's the okay, that's the other one. So he had 13 years. So you met him pretty well at the
At the
beginning
beginning.
of his. And
Because
then
he
you
was let out on parole to me.
okay. All right. Does anybody in the chat have any other questions? I'm trying to keep an eye on it to see if anybody has any questions, but if you do, go ahead and put them in there. So after the 10 years, he gets out. How long was his parole when he got out?
About 2 years.
He had a 2 year, he was out and was given 2 years parole.
About, give or
Now,
take. Yeah.
now he had to check in with a parole officer and all those things, right?
Yes.
Did he do all of that like he was supposed to?
Yes.
And he was you said a framer. He did construction work.
Yep. He got a job within 6 weeks of being out.
Mm-hmm.
And he started a side business doing handyman work and got insurance.
Okay.
So he was busy. He was making money. He was doing what he was supposed to do. He looked great.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like you were saying, you said they was checking all the boxes, doing all the right things, and he was treating you well.
Mostly, anything going odd was, it's going to take a little time to adjust from being locked up to being free.
Right.
And, there's going to be some adjustments. And I know that I have some self-esteem issues, and
Right.
just adjusting to somebody being there all the time.
Yeah, because this would be your first, like, we are in my home relationship, other
Yes.
than having your children there all the time.
And I was expecting. He came home the end of January, and I was pregnant and due the beginning of April.
Right. So you were,
My emotions were all over the place from pregnancy.
yeah. So you were like 6 months. No, you were more than 6 months pregnant when he got out.
Yes.
So she had she got pregnant while she got pregnant with the first one, and then got pregnant towards the end of that 10-year before he got paroled. You got pregnant again. So is it 8 years between your kids or something like that? Okay.
Yes.
8 years between them. Yes, he was bringing in money, and he was, yeah, and I feel like that's probably true, but he did minimize all of that to her. So that it was a lot of time just for burglary.
But she
Interesting.
said New York was a tough state.
Yeah. Here is a good question for you.
Yes, yes.
And you
But
still feel that way. You still feel as if he loved you.
some. But I think he loves himself more.
Okay.
And he loves the drugs and the drinking more than even he loves himself.
Okay. Do you think he would try to come back to you?
Will he try? Yes.
You do think he will try to manipulate you into taking him back?
Yes. Absolutely.
I think it would be a lot for me to recap, Bree. You may just have to watch it back again because we are, I'm sorry, hon, but we're almost an hour in already. Can you believe that?
Wow.
I know. Um, okay, so your son was around 10 when he got out then?
He was 8 turning 9.
8 turning 9. You had the baby. Because you had the baby after he got out, right?
Yes. And he had recently started a job, and his boss gave him, it was a scheduled C section. So his boss gave him that day to be at the hospital with me.
And I had asked you when you thought, if you had to sit down and think about it, when you thought that things started to go wrong. And you told me within a month. But at first you had to think about that because you felt like it wasn't that soon until you really thought about it.
Yeah, it started to go bad around a month, but I made excuses and I needed somebody there because I was having a baby, and I wanted to excuse his behavior because he had been in so long,
Right.
and excuses, excuses.
Right.
You
Right.
always make excuses for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, and he was only home 8 months.
Almost to the
So,
day. And I'm the one who had him removed from the house. I said,
can
that's
you
it.
tell the story? Can you tell that story about how that happened?
He had started, obviously, I mean, he had started drinking a little bit here and there, and then it went from a couple of beers to a 6 pack to a 12 pack to a case. And it was just going. And then he started not coming home, but he was doing handyman work on the side. And he said he was up in the city doing work, and he would come home with money, and he would order parts for different things that he was doing, and or at least tell me that he was ordering parts and be on the computer looking up parts. And he started coming home later or not coming home, and then eventually I got a call from a lady who asked if he got back to the hotel room okay. And
So she didn't ask if he got home okay.
no, she asked if he got back to the hotel room okay.
Wow. Yeah. And what did you say? I don't think we talked about this. What did you say to her?
Told her that I was his wife. She said she wasn't cheating with him, they were just using drugs together, that she also had a son about the same age, and that she felt horrible that she was using, that she couldn't stop. The really, really odd thing is, I wrote down her name and phone number because that came up on caller ID. And several years later, when I was working at a drug and alcohol rehab center, she came in as a client.
Oh my goodness. Hold
I
on real
didn't tell
quick.
her who I was.
I just want you to know that Kim has been telling me in the chat that this has really been very powerful for her. She really needed to hear this tonight. So just so you know that she needed to hear your story
Thank you.
because she's going to bed. Okay, so she came in. You were okay, wait. You worked where? You were working.
After the divorce, I was working at a drug and alcohol rehab center at the front desk as the receptionist.
Okay.
And she came in
Oh my goodness. So
as a client.
how did you know it was her?
The name, the drug use.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I had written that name down, and that was a name that I did not forget.
Right. Now, when she told you they'd been doing drugs together, did you already have some inclination that he had gone back to doing drugs? Do you
Yes.
want to tell us why you knew that?
He lost a considerable amount of weight very quickly. And he got special permission the beginning of July to go to New York to visit his family because he was on parole and he wasn't supposed to leave the state. They had paroled him from New York to Rhode Island, where I lived. And he had to get special permission to leave the state to visit his family for the holiday. They gave him the permission. When his family saw him and saw the change, the physical change in him,
Right.
that's when his niece kind of pulled me aside and told me a little bit and told me a little bit more after we went home. She talked to me on the computer and on the phone, and she told me a little bit more about his history, which they didn't want to tell me before because they were really hoping that he would go home and behave and make a good life.
So his family, now I had asked you that before, I think, but when did you meet? You met his family. This was after he got home.
I had met his family before he went home, about 4 years before he came home.
Okay.
We weren't super close, but I did get to know them. I was a little bit closer to his niece because we were close to the same age, and she had been married to an alcoholic. Her two kids were very close to my son's age, so they just clicked, and three boys playing together around the
Playing
same age.
together, and so
Yeah.
this was family for you. She was family for you, and
Yes.
and you're still in contact with her, you said.
Yes.
Okay. Is she the only one of his family you're still in contact with?
No, I keep in contact with his youngest brother's family somewhat, more so his niece and somewhat his nephew. His niece is about a couple of years older than my son, but she just recently had a baby who's 6 months old now, and of course, I sent her a blanket.
I mean, this is extended family for you,
Yeah,
and they didn't do anything wrong.
right. And
Although,
for the most part, most of them still talk to me. Life gets in the way, and we're not like super close, but
do you feel like that's because of the children?
somewhat, yeah.
A lot of it too. And Lori was asking now, does he have contact with his children now?
No, and that is their choice.
Okay, that's their choice. And so your son is out of the house.
Not yet.
Oh, well, but he's old enough that he could be. He's 21. You said he'll
He'll
be
be
21.
soon. Yeah, he'll be 21 next month, and he put a deposit on an apartment.
Yeah.
So,
Yay. So he's doing the adult stuff.
Yeah, I'm proud of him. He's a good kid.
Right.
Very good
Right.
kid.
That's good to hear. And he's very upset with him. He does not like him. He's not happy with him. He's very upset with him. And then your daughter is now how old again?
12.
12. And can you tell us, she had some contact with him when she was,
When
even
she
after
was
the
younger, about
brother?
preschool age, she talked to him on the phone because she saw other friends who had daddy. So she wanted daddy. And she talked to him until she got put in the middle of an argument between father and son. And then she's like, no, this is not good.
So she wanted to have a daddy because she had gotten old enough to where all of her friends had daddies and all of this kind of stuff. So you then had to, did she remember anything about him? Did she know anything about him before that?
She was 4 months old when he got arrested this time. And I did bring them for several visits because I felt that I had to give him a chance. That, yes, he made a mistake. I have to be sure it was him. I have to see if he's going to go get treatment. You know, I've got to see, give it a little bit of a chance. And he blew it. He blew it big time.
He blew it by the behavior he had when you went to visit.
Yes.
Now, he also, the reason when you had him removed from the house
Because
because
he used in the house and he threatened the children.
yes. So you said that he did that one night and then you had him removed the next day.
Yes.
And
As soon as I was able to safely leave the house with the 2 children, I left the house, went to the police station, and asked them to remove him from the house.
Were you scared?
Very.
That's very brave.
I knew I was running the risk of them taking the children away because that happened in the house with the children and I was there and I had given him the money.
Right. And but they did not see it that way, right? They saw it as, we need to get this guy back in jail.
No. They saw it as, we need to get him out of the house because she asked us to get him out of the house. Give me the key for the vehicle that's still registered to me, but he was driving, so that he actually would leave the premises.
So their priority was to get him out of the house, not to put him in jail. When was he then arrested? Okay, now this is another thing, because after he was removed from your home is when he went on to hurt other people. I say hurt. I don't know.
Well,
He did assault people.
In a 3-day period, he assaulted, on the first day when he was removed from the house, he assaulted 2 elderly women. Sometime in that 3-day period, he broke into a car. And then on the 3rd day, he assaulted 2 other women. And the last woman he assaulted, he was caught shortly afterwards. He was putting gas in the vehicle at a local convenience store and had bought a sandwich.
This is a vehicle he had stolen.
No, the vehicle it was registered to me, but it was his vehicle.
Okay.
Because I couldn't drive it. It was a standard. I don't drive a standard. It was his vehicle. So he had assaulted 4 women, and they had an APB out for him. He was on the news. I had to go down to a different town's police station, talk to them, tell them everything that I knew. After a different set of police had come to my brother's house, where I stayed for 2 days to be safe.
Because I was going to ask you that. So once he was removed, before he was arrested, where were you?
I stayed at my brother's house for Sunday and Monday, and then I had to go back Monday night because my son was starting school on Tuesday, and I needed to go back and get his clothes and school stuff together, and he had not been caught at the time. He wasn't caught until Tuesday morning when I was at school dropping off my son and going over the temporary restraining order with the office.
Man, you hadn't even got any of that set up before he got, all you'd gotten accomplished was to get him out of the house.
By the time my son started school, I had a temporary restraining order.
Oh, so that
It,
wasn't in that 3 days.
it was.
Wow, that's what I'm saying. All that happened really quickly. Wow.
Yeah,
Um. Okay.
it was a lot. It was definitely a lot.
I'm looking to see there.
And then I had to go through almost being kicked out of where I was because he used drugs on the property. And it was in the police report, so I couldn't refute that
That was in your brother's place.
where I was living.
So he actually showed up there.
When he came home to
Oh,
where,
I see. I see. That
yeah,
was in. Okay. Right.
and I almost got kicked out. I almost got evicted because of that. And I had to go through housing court.
Someone is asking, was this sexual assault at all?
No,
No. But now you found out later that you knew one of these people, one of these women.
I met her after the assault, but I knew her grandson. But I didn't find that out for a little while.
Right. It was interesting to me though, because when the from what I understand, I'm no expert on any of this, you guys. We're just having a conversation. I am no expert. Um, but when people are in prison, they tend to quickly get alliances with people. And that is for their own safety, because if they don't have them, they get killed
Yep.
or they get hurt or they get taken advantage of. And so they quickly become, and I feel like you found out that he was acquainted with her son, you said, right?
I was.
You were.
I was acquainted with her grandson because he had been my neighbor.
Okay. But he had friends already on the outside that he was getting drugs from, that he was.
His work co-workers.
Yeah. So he already had built these alliances that he had found on the outside very quickly.
Yeah.
Because you said he was only there 8 months when all this happened. So,
And
and if
possibly neighbors. I didn't live in a good complex. Not like you had to go far.
Yeah. Anything like, did this person that he assaulted with, did she look anything like just like a regular person? Was she like,
Very tiny.
oh,
Tiny
tiny?
and old. She was 88.
Okay. All right. So he took advantage of an older person. Were all of them in this demographic?
All of them were over the age of 60.
Wow. Yeah.
And the last one was a police officer's mother.
Oh, well, that didn't go over well, I'm sure. And so, just to be clear, there's you have no contact with him now,
Outside of court now.
and the children don't have any contact with him.
Correct.
Okay. Um,
I get legal paperwork from him occasionally. And he used to call the house on a regular basis. Haven't seen the phone pop up with his number recently.
so he would have been 36 when you met him, but when he went back in jail, he would have been how old? This time,
Oh, 47?
47. He's probably, yeah. And how old? And
Or 49.
when he went back into jail,
Because I was,
because it was 10
I
years
was,
later, so
yeah,
he
I
would have
was
been 45.
39. So he was 48.
Okay. And so he would be how old now? How long ago did this happen?
12 years ago.
So it's been 12 years. Well, that makes sense because your daughter's 12.
Yeah, that's how I can remember.
You know, we women remember a lot of stuff from the ages of our children. So your son is going to be 21 next month and your daughter is 12. Denny, sorry, I didn't Denny was asking me that again. Okay, I do want to play something, and I know that when you saw this video for the first time, you said that you don't remember much of it. But I want to I just want to play because this is these are really interesting. And then if you guys have some more questions, you can put them in there. Okay, I did that one. This one was interesting to me. I met Steve. Hold on. Because we are talking about pen pals. Been on a pen pal site called goodprisoners.com, and it all kind of started from there. It's called recorded and monitored. Have I told you yet how much I love you? Yes, you did, and I love you too. Let's kiss. Mwah. On his prison profile, it states his criminal history, first-degree assault, and his sentence is 43 years. He was 20 years old at a party under the influence, and he shot 4 guys with a shotgun. Nobody died. He made a mistake, and he regrets it, and he is remorseful. We finally met after about a year of writing. I had never been inside a prison before. I knew that I loved him the very first time I met him. Stephen and I got married in a prison visiting room. We even got to dance, and it was real special. So far, Stephen and I have had 3 wonderful conjugal visits. Stephen and I have talked about having kids, and we've decided that we want to wait. People ask me what I wanted to be when I grow up. I always said I wanted to be a mom. We're putting that on hold just because of the situation. If Stephen gets out on his release date, he'll be 58 years old. It is kind of old to be starting a family. It can be difficult being married to someone in prison. I do get lonely. I'm thinking of you, and you are in my heart, as always, snuggled up in there. I'm thinking of you as well. I do sometimes dream of having more of a conventional marriage. I hope to one day have that with Stephen when he gets out of prison.
Well, Susie's mom, Penny, was completely in the dark about Susie's nuptials until after the fact.
When I learned that Susie had married a man in prison, I was shocked. This is not what I expected Susie to grow up and do. I do not approve of this marriage. I can't see it's doing anything but tear Susie down. I don't know the extent of Stephen's crime, why he's in prison. I've met Stephen in prison, and he seemed nice, but he also seemed like he was telling me everything I wanted to hear. I feel like Stephen was manipulating me. Stephen has the personality of a wife beater. He goes into rages on the phone. And if Stephen sometimes goes months without calling or getting in touch with her because he's just giving her the silent treatment, and that's very hurtful. I wouldn't like Susie to get pregnant. I don't think prison is any place for a child. I have told Susie she should get divorced, and she agreed. And I paid for the proceedings. She had papers served to him, and he just wrote on a return to sender. Susie is setting herself up for a very lonely existence. I feel like it's a failed marriage between Susie and Stephen. It's going nowhere.
What do you have to add to that in your own experience?
Yet you definitely don't know somebody when they're in a very controlled environment. They can show you whatever mask they want to, because you don't see them dealing with that much stress. You don't see them dealing with trying to pay bills and having a baby screaming and trying to get enough money to pay things and put gas in the car. And try to juggle time.
Now, I know that you've had therapy. Have the children had therapy too? I'm assuming.
My son has, my daughter has not. Sometimes I think she should, but it's hard to fit it in.
Hard to fit it in. She has a lot of activities.
She's 12, she's in middle school. Right now, my son and I are sharing a vehicle until his gets fixed, which it's at the shop now. But it goes.
Yeah. And then Sue was just saying she had a similar, not similar experience, but I have spoken to her by email too. Okay, and then this next one.
I do remember that video after seeing it, though.
Okay, this next one. Hold on. I have one more, you guys. This one's only 3 minutes. And this one is interesting. I'll tell you why here in just a minute. Again, with Dr. Phil. You might be able to check. That's what I was going to suggest. I was going to suggest there are other ways in which to do that. And if it were me, I would do it sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
And if you need help figuring that out, I will bet you that Deb, because she does this, she's not a therapist, but she works within that system. So she understands
Right.
that and how to get some of that done. You could probably, we could get you exchanged with emails. Okay, I want to play this one. Here's what's interesting about this one. Well, I'll tell you when we get done. Hold on.
There are common characteristics among women who fall in love with people in prison. And the truth is, it's not just random. There are common characteristics among them. And I'm going to write a few of these down. And you can tell me whether you think you meet any of these criteria.
Okay.
Now, first off, these women are damaged. And when I say damaged, I mean mentally, emotionally, physically, all types of things. Do you think that would be characteristic of you?
That describes the situation completely.
Yeah. Also, they tend to approach these situations as though the love is fantasy. It's fantasy based. They're able to do that because you haven't had to pick up his dirty socks.
Right.
You haven't had to wash his dirty underwear.
Yeah.
You haven't had to be there when he won't get a job and sits on the couch and you're the only one working. It's all fantasy.
Yeah.
There is this aspect that you have to admit is a Cinderella aspect of this love. In fact, you said, he saved my life. You said you were brokenhearted, and even from prison, he saved you. And you have to agree, we've talked about things that he has done, and boy, do you fit this one chapter and verse. But you rationalize the things that he's done. But, well, he was young. Well, he didn't mean to. Well, they were just playing catch with the cat.
I'm convincing myself
Over the
that
fire,
way.
and he was
Yeah.
young, and well, she was saying bad things about him, and
I agree.
and every one of those things is characteristic of you.
Yes, it is. I rationalize it so that I have to rationalize it in order to continue pursuing it, because if I really stop and think about it, I might change my mind.
There's one more thing that's very important, and I'm going to put this outside the box. You can decide whether this fits or not. And this is hybristophilia. Now, I'm not saying this fits you, but there is a diagnosis. There is a category of women that are attracted to men that involve danger, men that are in prison, men that commit crimes. It adds an element of that bad boy excitement.
I'm not attracted to that at all.
I hope not.
Now, I don't know if you noticed, but this is the woman. This is the woman who is in love with Stephen Avery, and Stephen Avery is the guy who is in jail and on the show from Netflix called Making of a Murderer. And I'm going to be covering that very soon. I just thought it was quite the coincidence that that was the one that
That popped up.
girlfriend. Policy. What? Uh-oh. Did I get in trouble? They're saying something. I think I got suspended.
Was it for showing a Dr. Phil clip?
Probably. Hold on. I just want to know if we're still here, you guys.
I think that happened to Anthony too for showing something.
Did it? I don't think I'm there. Okay, hold on. Let me check something here. I'll do it over here.
I'm not attracted to any part of
Nope, it's unavailable. Okay, let me see if they sent me something or not. What I'll have to do though is I'll have to do a new one, and then I will have to. But if I'm suspended, I may not be able to.
It might be just temporary for this one.
I don't know. Hold on. Due to copyright match, your stream was interrupted. Streams are interrupted when copyrighted content is detected. After copyrighted material is no longer being streamed, streams are automatically re-enabled. I'm back. I'm reading my email to find out what it said. I'm back. That's why I didn't stop yet.
We're back. Yay!
Yeah, it was just what'll happen, you guys, unfortunately, is that whenever this loads, it'll happen again. So what I will have to do is they'll give me the opportunity, just so you guys know what the process is. And hello, everybody. I'm glad you're still here. We hung on. What'll happen is they'll give me the opportunity. I know I'm such a bad girl. What can I say?
We got put in YouTube jail.
I really doubted it was a suspension. But anyway, they're saying that I just basically got what do you call it? Timed out. That's what I did. They timed me out for a minute. They said once it quit playing, so we had to wait for my internet to catch up, and then it wasn't playing anymore for a certain amount of time, and then they let us come back up. Okay. But what will happen is whenever this, I want everybody to know this, that whenever this does get loaded back onto YouTube, I will again get another notice, and they will give me the opportunity to cut out the part that they don't want me to play. And so that's what I will do. But our interview will, by doing it that way, our interview will stay here.
Okay.
So that's what I will do. Okay, guys, stay with us. Okay, Alicia, I'm getting in trouble over here. Got to figure out how to do that without getting in trouble. So what were we even talking about whenever it happened? Oh, I was just playing the video. And so tell me what you thought of the video I played. Of course, everybody was seeing it. So
Right. Definitely.
I saw you
Definitely
shaking your head,
damaged.
going, absolutely. You're going, yes, all of those things, right?
Yep.
So, and thank you for those coming in. Hello. Okay, so we got all the way to the end of that and everybody got to see it. Glad you're all here. So it hyper something.
Yeah, whatever that was. Being attracted to bad boys.
Yeah, that's what it is. Being attracted to them, and what he was saying was that brings a sort of excitement.
The one serious relationship that I had back in high school, he was somewhat of a bad boy.
Okay. And you were younger.
Yeah.
So you would say you were like a teenage girl and a bad
15,
boy.
16.
Yeah. But not this guy. That wasn't the part of it that excited you.
No, I think it was that I felt a commonality, and he was attractive. He paid attention. Definitely the fantasy part. It's, you don't see what you don't want to see.
Right.
And he can wear whatever mask he wants. When he's he's a model person. He knows his place. He maintains an even personality with structure.
Mm-hmm.
He does his programs. He goes to the classes he's supposed to go to. If there's a class offered and it gives him a benefit, he'll take it, even if it's just getting out for a little bit. Usually they give him time off for that.
And it's giving him what he wants.
He's due to get out next October.
Yeah. Are you looking it up, Denny? Lori's wanting to know what that $50 word was, because I don't. Hyper something, yes, and it's
I don't remember.
And I will do that. I will when this is done, I will give you all the links to those videos that I'm going to cut out, and I will make mention of that when it loads. Here we go. Hybristophilia, sexual interest in and attraction to those who commit crimes. Yes, that's the word.
Well, the guy that committed Amityville, the Amityville horror, based on a real, he killed his family.
Right, that was based on a real thing.
He's married. They won't give him conjugal visits. He is in New York. He was in the same prison.
Oh, really?
I think I may have even been in the same visiting room with him.
Really?
But they won't give them conjugal visits.
So,
due to the nature of his crime.
Okay. All right. I'm looking to see if we had any other questions while we were watching.
Oh, and he was also in Dannemora well before that escape happened.
Now tell me about that, because you mentioned that before, and for some reason that's not clicking with me what that means.
The 2 inmates escaped from Dannemora with the help from, I think she worked in nursing or something, that she helped them escape. And I guess they dug a tunnel into the wall, and then they went through Dannemora is a very old prison, and the heating in it there's tunnels with pipes, and it's hot water that goes through the pipes. And the inmates that work in, I think it was plumbing, they started fixing the pipes. And once you fix one section of piping, you have to fix the next one, because the water starts going through it and it breaks the next set. So they were replacing all the piping in the tunnels. And I know because he worked there in that department while he was there. And he said one time he was going through the tunnels and he opened up a manhole cover and ended up in the staff parking lot outside the wall. And went, oh, and quickly went back down.
Now, who was this?
My ex.
Your ex?
He didn't escape, but when he worked there, he worked in the plumbing and whatever department, and he was fixing the heating pipes.
Okay.
And he knew that there were tunnels where the heating pipes were so that they could go in and fix them. And one of the tunnels led out into the staff parking lot. You just open up the manhole cover and you're in the staff parking lot outside the wall. And I wasn't surprised when I found out that's how they got out. I mean, they did other things to get to the tunnels. They dug, I guess, through their wall in their cell and down into the tunnels.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. But the inmates definitely knew about the tunnels leading out to the staff parking lot.
Hi, Kat. Does anybody have any other questions? I know some of you are just getting here, and we've gone through quite a bit. I was just myself trying to think of anything that we might have missed. Oh, I know what it was. We haven't talked about what you're doing now. So I feel like, and this, you can just help me to understand, do you feel in some way with what you are doing now that you are trying to give back?
Yes.
Okay.
And staying useful. Because for the past 4.5 years or so, I've been out of work. I've had both knees operated on. I've had 3 hernia repairs. I've got lymphedema, which my ankles and feet swell up. I've got spine issues from falling a few times. So I've been out of work. I finally got disability, but in the meantime, I crochet. My mother had taught me some how to crochet, and at first I was making baby blankets for the people who were pregnant at church. And then I started going to a different church, and they were doing this collection for something called Operation Christmas Child, which is packing shoe boxes that get sent around the world to really poor areas where the kids have been through war, famine, floods, whatever, or they're just like out in the way back. It's a Christian organization, and it is run through volunteers and through ministry partners that are in that country, like missionaries or pastors in that country. But it's most of it is volunteer, and it's just whatever fits in shoe boxes. New items or like new items. From the US, we can send handmade items. Other countries because other countries can participate as well, but different countries have different rules as to what they can send. but I like making like hats and doll blankets and doll clothes and soap pouches, little things that I can do all year long and just
put them in the
never.
boxes. Now,
And then I go
quickly,
shopping in between, and it's fun to go shopping for presents.
yeah, yeah. Even it's just little stuff that you're picking up. I understand that
Yeah,
totally.
like a Happy Meal toy, or some stuff at Dollar Tree, some stuff at Walmart that's on clearance, the after holiday sales, the back to school sales.
When did you? That questions coming in. When did you get your divorce?
He was arrested in 2010 in the end of August. I filed for divorce the beginning of January 2011, and it was November 2012,
So it took a little while to get divorced.
or no, November 2000, maybe it was November 2011. It did take a while though, because he fought it.
Okay, now is he in the same state now?
He is still in Rhode Island
And he
because he
knows
committed the crimes in Rhode Island.
now because of the paperwork, he knows where you are, correct?
Yes, I was told that I had to send pictures and report cards from the kids and keep him. I can't send from a PO box. It has to be from an actual address in this state. Now
So
that
are you concerned at all about what happens when he gets out? Now his release date would not even be if is he eligible for parole now after all that he's been through?
they've
That he's
denied
done,
him
been
parole,
through,
when
what
he
he's
went up for
done.
parole, they denied it
Okay, so he's been up for parole and been
twice.
denied
Twice.
twice. So how much longer? So how long did he get? Because if that was in 2010,
They gave him 20 years to serve with
yeah.
15 years parole, but he has taken programs and classes and gotten good time, and it's down to October of next year.
Hi, Cheryl. And so you're not worried about him getting out as far as coming. Oh, so you are.
Yes. They won't tell me if he is going back to New York to serve the 13 months that he owes for the parole violation, because I am not a victim, technically, legally.
But the children.
I'm not listed as next of kin.
No, but I would think that because of the children.
I'm divorced. HIPAA. They won't tell me.
What about your son? Does he get paperwork or does it all come to you because of your daughter?
We don't get anything unless he's filing a motion to court.
Okay, so he's not filed anything to get to see his daughter.
Oh, he has. He asked to see her. Our son was about 17. He was close to 18, but he wasn't 18 yet, so they asked him to leave the courtroom because they could see that he was getting visibly upset, because he came with me. He was like, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there for your support. But they asked him to leave because he was under 18. And the judge denied the visitation. He threw a temper tantrum fit, threw his pen, started swearing at everybody, and had to be escorted out by 3 or 4 guards. I can't remember. But he was shackled, and they escorted him out physically.
So,
and he appealed.
Is your information on your about page for your channel?
No, I don't know how. I don't know if I can yet because I've only got 100 subscribers. So I don't know if I can put that stuff in. If I can, I'm going to go back and do it and try.
So if you want, so you want to put your email in your about? Okay.
Yeah.
Denny or Alicia or someone, if you would post Sharon's link to her channel here, please. This is a good time that we can do that to support Sharon. I would love it because you guys can learn more about these boxes that she puts together. We've barely touched on it, and it's for Samaritan's Purse.
Yes, that's
Is that
the parent
right?
company that does
And
it. They do a lot of aid. They've been over in the Ukraine with a field hospital. They did the field hospital in New York City at the beginning of COVID. They go and rebuild things in the US and around the world when there's been flooding. They will help put wells in places that need wells, like out of the way villages that don't have clean water. They'll help build a well. It's just
Mhm.
they share their faith by doing,
Right.
which
And you
I
you
think is
said that
great.
was Billy Graham's son?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, so you guys can learn more about that. And I know you had a couple of recent ones. Did you touch more on that recently on what these boxes are?
Somewhat. Most of them are the earlier videos showing
Okay.
unboxings of
Right.
boxes that I packed.
Okay.
Um, right now, I've been showing some things as I buy them,
Thank you, Alicia.
and like, oh, look what I found on sale, and I'm going to put these in the boxes.
Because, I don't even know if I put it below this video. I'm not even sure if I did that today. I
It's okay.
apologize because that's something I would have done usually, but for some reason, I'm not sure I did put that in there.
The good thing is, every state has a drop off somewhere. Most of them are at churches. In October, you can look up in your local area and find out it's mid-November when they do the drop off. It's like a week that they take the drop off in mid-November. But and you can usually find out where the drop off is in October. But I shop all year long because I find the clearance sales and the stuff that's coming in through the Dollar Tree and wherever I can find cute little deals.
And are you okay with putting your email here or not?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So I believe it was
Sharon
Sharon
A. Brooks
A. Okay.
79 at
Trying to
Gmail.
remember it.
Yeah, Sharona.
Shay,
My Sharona.
my Sharona. That's 80s. Okay,
That's
Sharona
how I
A.
get it.
Brooks. What were the numbers
79
at
at
Gmail?
Gmail. Yep.
That's funny. So that is Sharon's email if you would like to get in touch with her about anything that we've talked about and such. So I know that people are wanting to know, are you going to get a restraining order? How are you going to protect you and your children? I mean, what's the plan here if he ever gets out?
Right now, I can't get a restraining order unless he does something,
Okay.
as far as I'm aware. I don't know whether he is going straight back to New York.
Right.
He did write a letter asking me to send his IDs to his sister in New York. I don't communicate with the sister that he communicates with because I don't like her.
Now, when did he ask you this?
In a letter about a year ago.
Okay, because I remember us talking now that he sent you several letters, but you don't answer those.
No. Most of the time, if he sends me anything, it's legal paperwork because he has to send me a copy of anything that he puts into the court. Because if I put anything into the court, I have against him, I have to send him a copy. It's Rhode Island legal law.
Yeah.
Right now, he has put in paperwork to get rid of his parental rights, which I've got no problem with, but it hasn't been answered by the court. And I don't know if the state's going to let it because Megan still gets medical through the state. And they may not let him give up his parental rights for that. Not that he's going to be out for long when he does get out, because, well.
Well, we know that, yeah, the track record here is not great.
No.
Even if he is getting older, that doesn't seem to matter to them.
Somebody
Lori,
in their 80s call the drug and alcohol rehab center to get help.
yeah. Yeah, Lori said sorry you felt unattractive way back when you got involved with that man. You have a sincere smile and beautiful eyes, Sharon, and clearly a huge and wonderful heart.
Thank you.
So, gosh, I'm trying to think if there was anything else that I meant to ask you. The Samaritan's purse deal. Sharon did send me a list, you guys, and I can send this to you. I will also put the information for Samaritan's purse down below, because I don't think I did that either.
No food, no liquids, no weapons, nothing war related, no knives. Scissors are okay though.
Yeah, war related. Anything that like
No
military.
tanks, no army men.
Yeah,
Squirt guns are
military.
okay if they're like bright, colorful squirt guns. But I don't personally send them because it's just too iffy.
Yeah.
And it gives me a way to connect to kids that aren't having a good time. And I grew up not having a great time, so if I can help somebody.
It's not just what you've been through with this experience, it's also the way you grew up.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And occasionally we've unfortunately had a rash of several children being diagnosed with cancer in the general vicinity that
like church and
people that I've been connected to one way or the other, even if it's a friend of a friend on Facebook, or there was a boy in my daughter's karate class, a Dollar Tree YouTuber's nephew. She does Dollar Tree hauls, and her nephew just graduated from high school and has cancer. So I like to make blankets soft.
Well, you did the Terra blanket for someone.
I gave the Terra blanket to a friend from karate who is finally having a girl. She has 2 boys, and she's having a girl this time. And she did my daughter's hair.
Oh. I thought that was cool. I really like that. For some reason you had the comments turned off. Did you mean to do that, or did you?
No, it does weird things every once in a while.
Okay. We'll have to talk about that, because there are defaults in which to put in there.
I try, and I set it, and then it just does what it wants, and then I have to go back and reset it.
Yeah. More than likely you didn't hit the save button on some stuff. That's what happens to me sometimes. I'm like, I thought I set that up. But
technologically challenged.
That's okay. Man, I tell you, I have learned so much in my 4 years. It'll be 4 years this October.
I just got myself a laptop, so it's a little easier to do things on the laptop.
It is. Our friend Miguel, all he has is his phone. He has no computer. So some of the things that I find that I have to go to my computer for, I wonder, people who don't have one, that's all they have is their phone. How do they get anything? It's hard to do stuff with just the phone. Some of the apps don't work on it. All of the things that you need are not in the app.
I have to ask my daughter how to do things. She's finishing up 6th grade. She knows everything about computers.
Lori is asking if that is Jennifer from Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Yes.
Okay.
I just last week sent a blanket to her for her nephew. They had the Bernat blanket yarn on sale at Michael's for $5 a skein. So I picked it up
Wow.
and I made him a blanket with that. It was so soft.
How awesome.
I can't wait till she gets it.
That Bernat blanket is nice. Okay, Jeannie, good night. We are just about to go. Is there
Hi,
anything
Jeannie.
that you want to say? Anything more you want to tell us? I was just going to say that as far as these boxes that you do and what you had told me sounds very similar to what they do at the domestic violence centers, the women's shelters, those kind, very similar things that they are looking for.
Rose likes crochet. She does her big thing for wings.
Right. And it's all very similar. If you listen to the things that they ask for, it's very similar. Now, she's more specific now. She has actually worked it out with the place that she sends things to there at Wings. And she's gotten it down to a little more specific, by the month that what they're asking for. But yeah.
I crochet from my boxes, and then any extra stuff that I make gets given to the church because they pack anywhere between 600 to 1,000 boxes at the church. We have a relatively large church, and they do have a budget for the boxes, and they also have people donate items, people who don't want to go out and actually pack a full box.
Right.
They're like, oh, this is on sale. I'll buy 10 of these and bring it in. And they have a room downstairs that they store stuff in throughout the year. And we catch the packs of pencils after Easter, or the little toys after Valentine's Day, where the stuff's marked 75 to 90% off.
Exactly. Especially, the Dollar General does it all the time. They're really good for that.
Yeah. Yeah, when you pick up a pack of pencils for 10 pencils for 10 cents.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, Lori. Thank you for being here. Thank you all for being here. And again, you wanted to come on and you wanted to tell your story. Why? Can you tell us again why you?
If hearing it from me helps somebody know not to feel bad about themselves, that it happens, and to know that you can't necessarily get to know somebody well enough in that kind of a situation. And 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be the same at home. There's that one time where it might, but it's rare.
Right. So you're hoping that people don't make the same mistake.
And it took me a long time to get back to feeling like I was myself again and figuring out who I really am.
I was going to say, because who you were before wasn't all that strong either.
Right. And there's still times where I'm not that strong. It goes, and I think that's everybody.
It's a daily battle for a lot of us. I'm telling you, it's I'm not the person I was, and as you know, I recently had another video, one of my sit and knit, where I spoke about and a lot of what I went through, because I have not talked about this yet. I got all the way to the end for those some of you that are leaving. I'm sorry, but a lot of what I dealt with was manipulation, was stuff dealing with my self-confidence, my my first husband told me that if I got to 140 pounds, he would divorce me. So I have issues with food. I have issues, food is an issue when you have low self-esteem often. I've had to deal with a lot, and I can only say so much with with the situations, but a lot of mine was very skilled manipulators, and I'm learning. And that's part of my journey, is to learn how not to be manipulated and not to be, taken that
I
way.
know in my head that some of the weight issue is a wall of protection
Hmm.
to keep
It's
things
yeah,
back, but I
yeah.
still can't figure out how to get past
You
that.
know, I will say that recently reading Connie's book has been helpful in that, because she also talks about, now Connie um, is Connie Eileen, and she's often a guest on Anthony's, and she's the
She's awesome.
yeah, she is awesome. But the cage is her cocoon. The cage was my cocoon, and she talks about the different, that cage of being comfortable. Okay, that can be that same thing.
Yep.
It's more comfortable to be there than it is to do what we need to do to get out of it. And trust me, that's the daily battle for me. Daily. Okay. Um, someone asked what safeguards. So yeah, what do you think that you are doing now that's going to protect you from falling for things again? Do you think that you've learned enough that you won't fall for this type of thing again, that you won't be taken
Nobody
again?
gets through. Nobody gets through.
You
It's
but
right now, I've been focusing on raising the kids and getting through health issues.
okay, so your focus is the kids and getting you some of your health. Okay. But nobody gets through, as in
I
um
don't go out. I don't date. I,
but you speak to people at church, and you have relationships.
yeah,
Okay.
I'll even speak to a stranger in the grocery store.
Well, you need to be careful about that.
Well, just to say hi, or if they're pushing a kid around in the carriage and the kid's screaming and crying, I'll be like, I remember those years.
Right. And it's okay. I'm not saying that you don't say hello to people. What we're trying to learn is how to be able to do that and still be focused on being aware of our surrounding at the same time.
Hmm.
Because if you can do, and this is something I'm working on, because and you have to practice it, and we're going to be talking more and more about that, the whole being a soft target, being a hard target, and
And
how
teaching my
to,
daughter how to be safe.
yeah, how are you doing that?
She has her own phone. She can call me. She
Uh-huh.
calls me to tell me where she is and who she's with, and I've met her friends, and she's shown me that I can trust her to be where she says she is and to be home when she's supposed to. And she watches around her and she calls me if she feels uncomfortable, or she can call her brother, and she
And
knows who she can go to in case of problem. And she's taken 3 years of karate.
uh-huh. Well, one of these days she can teach you some karate.
I can't physically do it,
Well, you never know.
but
You
I
never
did
know what.
watch when they were doing the weapons. That Cali stick and my cane aren't that different.
Right. I was
I
just gonna
paid
say,
attention.
you have to find the weapon that's close to you and that you can use. I've been hearing a lot about this, about the 360. That's for her phone. Life 360.
Oh, yeah.
You should look into that. It's called Life 360, and it's a way for you to know real time where she is. It's like a tracker on her phone that's just in your network, you know, I believe. Yep. Not naivety runs deep with those of us who've been taken advantage of.
Mhm.
Very, very much so. Okay. Thank you so much. We did it. We did it. we got in trouble, and but I think we got most of it in.
I will have to say, though, my kids have grown up to be pretty decent humans.
That is good. That is something, Sharon. That is definitely something. You're protecting yourself now, and you're protecting them, and they're growing up well, and they're good kids. So
And
there's
I've been
something.
very honest with them and to explain things at their level and not to completely discount every bit of their father. Because there are good things. He had, he has some talent to work with his hands, and he can be caring about other people some if he's not using, it's not all bad. I wouldn't have been there if it was all bad.
Yeah. Well, everybody is very glad that you came on and told your story, for sure.
Thank you.
Yes, breaking that cycle. Yes.
It took a while. And now that my son's older, I can explain to him that, yeah, when I first had him, I made mistakes because there isn't a manual.
There's something that Alicia and I have talked about, and it's something that I keep trying to put into my head. And we talked about this in the beginning, that this guy was very charming, would you say?
Very.
So
Very.
here's a saying for everyone, and that is, charming is alarming.
It can be.
Charming is alarming. Ding, ding, ding. Why is he so charming? Am I really all that, or does he want something? Just saying.
And
Charming
don't jump in with both feet.
Yeah. Yes. That's just it. If you keep that in your head and ask why, it's not that you don't deserve it. It's not that you're not great. It's just, it's always good to come at it from why, and don't fall for it so easily.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to remember to play that outro. I have an outro to play. For some reason, I can't remember to play it. But I'm warning you that I'm going to play the outro, you guys. It's just
That's
like
something
before.
I will learn. Intros, outros.
Yeah.
I'm still getting there with the technological part of things, but
Well, with a new laptop and stuff, then it's going to be, yeah. When they're too nice, there is a reason. Absolute, and follow your gut. Yes, and this is your best weapon right here, right here.
mm-hmm.
Okay, we're gonna go. I'm gonna play the outro, and let me see if I got it
It was
handy.
good seeing you all tonight.
Yes, I think this went so good, and I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you coming on. It's not easy to tell a story like this, but I want to tell everyone here that I really appreciate everyone being respectful, and there were great questions, and yeah, I think that it went really good. So, okay, if you want to hang on afterwards, I'm going to drop you down, and then we can talk for a minute or two before you go.
Okay.
Okay. Here we go. Okay, she's still down there in the basement listening. So I am going to go, and I appreciate you guys so very much. Again, if you're just joining, there's a little bit of this video that may have to get cut out, and I will put all the information that I can down below when this is all back onto YouTube, before it gets loaded up in there, or once it gets loaded, something like that. Okay, y'all take care. Have fun today at some point, and I appreciate you all so very, very much. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Y'all take care. Now I gotta play it. Hold on. Gotta remember.